Welcome back. Today we're doing something really useful in Spanish. Past tense irregular verbs, part 3. And this is the kind of lesson that makes your Spanish sound much more real, much more natural, because these are not rare museum verbs. These are everyday verbs, the kind of verbs that show up all the time when you tell a story. Had, came, was, knew, wanted, put, could. Very normal, very powerful. And here's the good news. Even though they're called irregular, a lot of them actually share a pattern. So instead of memorizing 100 separate monsters, you're really learning a small team of cousins. Today we'll focus on a few big ones in the simple past, the pretérito. Tener became tuve, estar became estuve, venir became vine, saber became supe, poner became puse, poder became pude, and querer became quise. Listen to that rhythm. Tuve, estuve, vine, supe, puse, pude, quise. A lot of them feel short and punchy. That's a memory trick already. In the simple past, these verbs often sound compact, like little action snapshots. Boom, it happened. One very helpful pattern. Many of these use endings like a, iste, o, imos, ieron. So you get forms like tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvieron. Or pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudieron. That shared skeleton helps a lot. Let's make them practical right away. Tener in the simple past usually means had, but often in the sense of a completed event. Tuve un problema means I had a problem. Tuve una idea means I had an idea. Tuve que estudiar means I had to study. That little phrase, tuve que, is super common. It means had to. How do you say I had to leave early in Spanish? Tuve que salir temprano. Tuve que salir temprano. Good. Notice, salir, to leave. Very useful little verb. Tuve que salir temprano. I had to leave early. Now, venir means to come, and in the simple past, the base changes to vin. So, vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinieron. Careful. Vino also means wine. Yes, Spanish gives you one word that can mean he came or wine. Context does the hard work. If someone says, el vino es bueno, that's the wine. If they say vino tarde, that's he or she came late. So if you ever hear vino, don't panic. Ask yourself, are we at dinner or are we telling a story? How do you say, we came late in Spanish? Vinimos tarde. Vinimos tarde. Nice. Vinimos tarde. We came late. Now let's look at estar. In the present, you know estoy, estás, está. But in this past tense, it becomes estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron. This is one of the most useful storytelling verbs. Estuve en casa. I was at home. Estuvimos en Madrid. We were in Madrid. And here's a small but important note. In Spanish, for location in the past, you'll usually use estar, not ser. So I was at the office is estuve en la oficina, not fui en la oficina. Ser and ir share some past forms, yes, but location uses estar here. How do you say, she was here yesterday, in Spanish? Estuvo aquí ayer. Estuvo aquí ayer. Perfect. Estuvo aquí ayer. And aquí means here. You'll hear both aquí and acá in Spanish depending on region, but aquí is a great standard word to use. Next, saber. This one is sneaky because in the simple past, supe does not usually mean I knew in a general ongoing sense. It often means I found out, I learned, I came to know. So supe la verdad is more like I found out the truth. That's a very common learner trap. Quick shortcut. Imperfect sabía is more like knew, was aware, used to know. Preterite supe is more like found out, learned. At A2, that distinction will already help you sound smarter than yesterday's version of yourself. How do you say they knew the answer in Spanish? Supieron la respuesta. Supieron la respuesta. Good. Supieron la respuesta. In many real situations, that can feel like they found out or they did know at that moment. If you wanted a background meaning like they knew it all along, often you'd use sabían. But today we're staying focused on this completed event past. Now, poner becomes puse. This one is gold because it's everywhere. Puse la mesa, I set the table. Puse música, I put on music. Puse las llaves aquí, I put the keys here. How do you say I put the keys on the table? Puse las llaves en la mesa. Puse las llaves en la mesa. Excellent. Puse las llaves en la mesa. Tiny side note, en la mesa means on the table in Spanish, in many normal contexts. Spanish often uses en, where English uses on. So don't fight it. Let Spanish be Spanish. Next up, poder, to be able to, becomes pude. And this one is very common for talking about whether something was possible. Pude entrar, I was able to get in. No pude dormir, I couldn't sleep. How do you say I couldn't sleep in Spanish? No pude dormir. No pude dormir. Great. No pude dormir. Notice how natural that sounds. And dormir means to sleep. Super useful. Now, querer becomes quise. In the simple past, quise can mean I wanted, but often with the sense of I tried to or I meant to. Quise llamarte means I wanted to call you, or I tried to call you, depending on context. Another very common real-life phrase. How do you say I wanted to call you in Spanish? Quise llamarte. Quise llamarte. Nice. Quise llamarte. That little ending te means you as the object, to call you. Llamar is to call. Llamarte is to call you. Let's connect these verbs into a mini story because stories help memory stick. Ayer tuve un problema. Yesterday I had a problem. No pude encontrar mis llaves. I couldn't find my keys. Luego supe dónde estaban. Then I found out where they were. Estuvieron en la cocina todo el tiempo would mean they were in the kitchen the whole time. But for your level, let's keep it simple. Las puse en la cocina. I put them in the kitchen. Then a friend came over. Vino un amigo. Or if it was we came, vinimos juntos. And maybe at the end, quise salir temprano, pero estuve ocupado. I wanted to leave early, but I was busy. Can you feel how these verbs build a real story fast? That's why they matter. Now, let's do a quick pattern check. For tener, tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvieron. For estar, estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron. For poder, pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudieron. For poner, puse, pusiste, puso, pusimos, pusieron. Did you notice something? No accents in these forms. That's a nice little bonus. These irregular preterite forms often avoid the accent marks that you might expect in other verb patterns. Not always the easiest news to receive in Spanish, but today it is friendly news. Another common mistake, mixing up vine and viene. Vine is I came, past. Viene is he or she comes, present. One tiny letter, very different time. Same with tuve and tengo. Tuve is I had, tengo is I have. When telling a story about yesterday, listen for those short past forms. Let's practice a few more. How do you say, he came to my house, in Spanish? Vino a mi casa. Vino a mi casa. Good. Vino a mi casa. How do you say, we were at the restaurant, in Spanish? Estuvimos en el restaurante. Estuvimos en el restaurante. Excellent. Estuvimos en el restaurante. How do you say she was able to finish in Spanish? Pudo terminar. Pudo terminar. Very nice. Pudo terminar. How do you say they wanted to go in Spanish? Quisieron ir. Quisieron ir. Perfect. Quisieron ir. How do you say you found out the truth in Spanish? Supiste la verdad. Supiste la verdad. Great job. Supiste la verdad. Now one more memory tool. Group these by sound. The U group. Tuve, estuve, supe, pude, puse. The I group. Vine, quise. That's not a full scientific law for all Spanish forever, but it's a useful mental shelf. If your brain likes patterns, give it patterns. And another trick. Imagine these as movie scene verbs. Not background, not description, but action beats. Tuve un problema. Vine tarde. Puse las llaves aquí. Supe la respuesta. Pude entrar. Quise ayudarte. These are all little completed moments. Speaking of ayudarte, that means to help you. Ayudar is to help. Very good verb to know. How do you say I wanted to help you? Quise ayudarte. Quise ayudarte. Nicely done. Let's recap in a simple, useful way. Tener becomes tuve. Estar becomes estuve. Venir becomes vine. Saber becomes supe. Poner becomes puse. Poder becomes pude. Querer becomes quise. A lot of these share similar endings, which means your job is easier than it first appears. Learn the change stem, then ride the pattern. Also remember the meaning shortcuts. Tuve que means I had to. No pude means I couldn't. Supe often means I found out. Quise often means I wanted to or I tried to. Estuve is for where someone was. Puse is for putting or placing something. If this felt like a lot, that's normal. But honestly, you're doing something important. You're training your ear and your mouth to recognize real story Spanish. That takes repetition, not magic. And the good news is these verbs come back again and again. So every movie, podcast, or conversation will reinforce them. So today, if you remember just a few anchor phrases, make them these. Tuve que, no pude, estuve, vine, supe, puse, quise. Short, strong, useful. You're building real Spanish now. Poco a poco, little by little, but very truly.